Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So in the last class, we were studying from the 45th to the 47th verse of the Vivekachudamani, where we find that the gist of the spiritual discipline, the highlight of the spiritual discipline, was described in those three verses. And we mentioned that the rest of the Vivekachudamani is the details of that overview which we have studied in the last class. So we will find that in the 48th verse, which we are going to study now, the disciple is about to implore, is going to ask his teacher certain questions. So what's the question? In the 48th sloka of the 48th verse of the Vivekachudamani, he will actually ask 7 fundamental questions in the 49th verse. But as a prelude to it, on the 48th verse, what's the disciple saying? Shishya uvacha kripaya sruyatang swamin prashna ayam kriyate maya yat uttaram ahang srutva kritartha shyam bhavat mukhat. So, O Master, the disciple said, O Master, kindly listen to the question I am putting to you. Kripaya sruyatang swamin prashna ayam kriyate. The questions which I am going to ask you, kriyate means I am just going to ask you. Maya, by me. The questions which are going to be asked by me. Please listen to that. Please give a hearing to those questions. And I shall be gratified to hear the reply of the same from your lips. Yat uttaram aham srutva kritarthasyam. I will be really gratified. This kritartha means I am gratified. Shyam bhavat mukhat, from your lips to hear the answers of those questions, I will be really gratified. So the disciple hereafter asks 7 basic questions, and these are the questions of all spiritual aspirants. Universal questions of all spiritual aspirants. The rest of the book is a step-by-step answering of these profound questions. So, what are the questions? That's being elaborated in the 49th verse. So, the 49th verse, what it says? Ko naam bandha katham esha agatah katham pratisthasya katham vimoksha ka asau anatma parama ka atma tayo viveka katham etat uchyatam. So the 7 questions he is asking. The first is ko nama bandha. So what is bondage? Katham esha agata. How has it come upon the self? The self which is eternal, which is ever free, how it has come under the fold of this bondage. So how it has come upon the self. Katham esha agata. That's the second question. The third is katham pratisthasya. And after it has dawned in the self, that ignorance has came to the self, how it continues to exist. Katham pratisthasya. And the fourth question is katham vimoksha. How is one freed from it? Ka asau anatma. The fifth question is that what is the non-self with which constantly we are identifying? Ka asau anatma. And then the sixth question is ka parama ka atma. And who is that Supreme Self? And then tayo viveka katham etat uchyatam. And how can one discriminate between them? The last question, the seventh question, that how to discriminate between the self and the non-self. So please answer me one by one in details all the questions. So what is bondage? How it came upon the self? How it continues to exist? And how one can be freed from it? What is non-self? What is the Supreme Self? And how to discriminate between these two. So these are the 7 questions, pertinent questions, universal questions, which any of the spiritual aspirants are going to have. And that's what, representing all the spiritual aspirants, here in Vivekachudamani, the Shishya, the disciple, is asking these pertinent questions to the teacher, who is a realized soul. So, now these questions doesn't come suddenly. That there should be some reference to this, otherwise from where the disciple asks this question, how it dawns in his mind. So if you all remember, in the last class, in the 47th verse, the Guru has already stated briefly what? Ajnana yogat paramatmana tava hi anatma bandha tata eva sangsritihi. That it is verily through the touch of ignorance, Ajnana yogat. It is because of our association with the ignorance. Paramatmana tava hi anatma bandha. The Supreme Self. The Supreme Self somehow gets attached, bound by the thing which is not the Self, anatma. And that results in sangsriti. Sangsriti means flow, the flow of samsara. So from that proceeds the round of this birth and death. That's the samsara. This flow in the process of transmigration. So the Guru has already indicated in that 47th verse. And then tayo viveka udita bodha banhi. So that's we were saying. The fire of bodha, the fire of knowledge. So that how it is enkindled? Because of viveka. So when, because of viveka, the fire of knowledge, the fire of this discrimination arises. Ajnana karyam pradahit samulam. The ignorance is burned to its very root. Nothing remains. So here we find that the Guru already gave an overview. That it is because of Ajnana Yoga, the Paramatma, the Supreme Self, gets somehow attached with the Anatma, that which is not Self. The Panchakosha, the body, the mind, the intellect, the prana, the vital forces, the Anandamaya Kosha. So this Panchakosha, we will come to the discussion in details as we proceed through the various verses of Vivekachudamani. So these are the Anatma, the non-self. With that, we get identified because of ignorance. And this results in sangsritihi. Sangsriti is this unending, as if unending cycle of birth and death, this flow. And how it can be stopped? Viveka. When the discrimination arises, one knows that he is not the non-self. He is always distinct from the non-self. He is a self. He is just a witness. He is in no way identified with all those panchakosha, with all the 3 states of our existence in the form of Jagrat, Swapna, Shushupti. He is neither attached to all those 3 senses. He is the witness. She is the witness. He is neither attached to the 5 layers of our identification with the non-self in the form of Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. So this, when Viveka arises, this Bodhavani, the fire of this knowledge, burns this identification with the non-self. And then Ajnana Karyam, the ignorance which is at the root of this sanskriti, of this flow in the form of birth and death, this cycle of birth and death, that is burnt to its very root, samulam. So from this brief statement of the Guru, so the disciple already had a vague idea that he is really the Paramatman and that his association with the Anatman is because of ignorance. So now you will find that the questions he is asking is not something that suddenly has came in his mind. Guru has already given an overview. From that these questions are evolving. That apart from this little knowledge that he has acquired by hearing the words that the fire of discrimination will burn away the effects of ajnana, he has heard. Now he wants to know it in details, that how really this discrimination, the various discrimination by phases in each and every layers of our understanding, how it will help us to burn the effects of ajnana completely. So he has not obtained the full knowledge of it, free from doubt. And that's why he's asking these questions. And the import of this question indicates that the disciple needs the guidance of his Guru to obtain such perfect knowledge. So, without the Guru's help, he can in no way have that knowledge. And that's why he's imploring his Guru to say him in details, to guide him step by step through all this various process of discrimination, which will help him to realize the ultimate purpose for which we are all born as a human being. Jivana mukti, sukha prapti, hetave janmadharana. The purpose of human birth is Jivan Mukti, to enjoy the bliss of freedom even while living. That Vedanta asserts that there is no need for our life to terminate, that after death, heaven is some post-mortem existence. That's what all the dualistic forms of religion, that's what they always profess. They always ascertain that it is waiting for you. But here we find in Vedanta, they say, if there is a state of liberation, I have to enjoy it, I have to experience it here and now. Iha, iha. That's a very important word in Vedanta, iha, here itself. And that's the thing which disciple is imploring to his Guru. So the disciple's mind is no more satisfied with the playthings of the world. He has already developed the dispassion from the so-called the sensate pleasures of life. He is in search of the truth. And progress is possible only through genuine questioning, as per the Vedanta's concept. That's why Sravana, you question, and after question, the Guru will be giving you, the teacher will be answering to your question. And then, after hearing Sravana, you do manana. You go on thinking over it. And if you are just complacent, then there can never be any spiritual progress. So if in our life the dissatisfaction is because of that spiritual discontent, then that type of dissatisfaction is always welcome. And that's the thing which we find is being indicated through these questions. And therefore, the Guru being pleased with the disciple, first what he does, he praises the disciple in the next verse. This is very important, just to encourage the one who is a seeker is something very important. That enables to bring a good understanding, a mutual respect between the teacher and the disciple. For this type of learning, if the respect is not there, this learning can never become effective. So what's the way of respect? The disciple can show respect to the teacher only when the teacher shows love, compassion, encouragement to the disciple. So before answering the questions, first the teacher does that. As we will find in many of the Upanishads, the Shanti mantra, one of the Shanti mantra is Sahana Vavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karvavai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma Vit Vishavai, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. What's the idea? That before resorting to any study, that whatever we are studying, let that be comprehended by the teacher and the disciple both to its full extent. Bhunaktu, and what we comprehend, that should not just remain in the intellectual level. It should nourish us. We have to, as if just the way we eat food. Bhunaktu is like eating. Sahana bhunakti, it is saha viryang, and that after eating it should be assimilated. It should give you virya, the strength, teja. And then we should not be having disrespect, or you can say that we should not be having a sense of enmity, misunderstanding between the teacher and the student. That shouldn't be there. Because for this type of learning, faith is the very, very first and the foremost factor. As we have seen when we were studying the sadhana chatushtaya, that Shraddha, when Shamadamadi Shat Sampatti we were studying, Shraddha is a very important factor. Unless you have faith in the teacher, you will never take his word seriously. And so, to really enable the student to develop that faith, the teacher should relate to the student through love, compassion, appreciation, understanding. And so, you will find that as the disciple has asked so nice questions, in the next verse, the Guru will be praising the disciple to encourage him. So what he is saying, the Guru praises the disciple. In the 50th verse, we find Sri Guru Uvacha. What he is saying? Dhanya asi, krita kritya asi, pavitante kulang tvaya, yat avidyaya bandha muktya brahmi bhavitum ichchasi. So Sri Guru Uvacha. The Guru now replied. What is replying? That you are blessed. Dhanya asi. Blessed are you. Krita kritya asi. That you have actually achieved your life's purpose. Krita kritya asi. Pavitang te kulang tvaya. That you have sanctified your family, your lineage. Yat avidyaya bandha muktya brahmi bhavitum ichchasi. That you have sanctified your family. How? That you wish to attain Brahman by getting freed from the bondage of ignorance. This wish itself is something great. Among thousands of people, among millions, a few develop that type of inclination. That it is not even, many doesn't listen to it. And those who listen, among them very few, really comprehend. And those who comprehend, among them still few are there who really take this path as seriously and start proceeding towards the goal. So you are really dhanya that among the millions, you are just the one who are very few. So who is dhanya? So that one who is endowed with vairagya. So vairagya is his wealth. The word dhanya came from dhana. Dhana means wealth. The one who has dhana means who has wealth, he is dhanya. So what is the wealth here for the disciple? That he has developed dispassion. He has developed discrimination. So that's why he is dhanya. He is the one who is the real dhanya. The one who has acquired the real wealth. All other wealths are trivial. As a human being, to develop this type of aspiration is something which speaks of our uniqueness. No other creatures can do that. Only a human being. So getting this human birth, we shouldn't waste it just in the pursuit of the sense of pleasures of life. This questions should come. So that's why he's called Dhanya. Krita Kritya asi. And who is Krita Kritya? Krita Kritya means that that Krita Kritya, the thing which has to be done. Kritya means the thing which has to be done, you have done. In life we will find, as per our worldly goals are concerned, there is no end to it. At present, you think this is the goal in my life, whether it is acquiring wealth, whether it is acquiring some position in life. I think that's the only goal I have. The moment you reach that goal, again you find a new hankering develops. So is there any such hankering which when we attain, when we get, when we just reach that, when we attain the desired goal, and then no more desires are there? That's only that when you get established in the self. Your inquiry of yourself takes you to the realization of yourself. And then you find all the desires have fallen off. So that's why he's saying here that Kritakritya, that this question itself shows that your hankering is something which once fulfilled will make you Kritakritya. You won't have any more hankering. So that's why Guru is saying that you are Kritakritya. Kritakrityasi. And then Pavitang te kulam tvaya. So it is said that spiritually enlightened persons, for the spiritually enlightened persons, in our scriptures they mention that 7 generations of the past, means your forefathers, 7 generations, and 7 generations of the future become purified. Now, it's very interesting. Don't think they are all going to get liberated. They become purified. Don't expect too much. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say very jokingly and interesting, that if a beggar asks for a few pence, just for a few dollars, you will happily give him. But if he asks for the plain fare, or say he asks for the train fare, of course you will think twice that how suddenly I'm going to give that. No one is going to give that huge amount of money suddenly for an unknown person. So Sri Ramakrishna, why he is indicating that when someone else in your family is spiritually illumined, that do have a purifying effect on all the family members. How? It's a matter of association. Just by being in the presence of a purified soul, when you remember that in my family, just as it has happened that when a boy or a girl takes to the life of renunciation, we will find, in spite of initial resistance, all the parents gradually develop a sense of fulfillment, a satisfaction. When he compares the life of the renunciate with his other children, he finds, yes, he is happy, and that makes them happy, that makes them feel peaceful. It's not that they attain the high spiritual illumination, but to certain extent, a portal opens up for them. Yes, this is the way of life we never thought of. Someone from our family, just by being spiritually inclined, has as if opened the eyes for all other family members. That we thought that the sensate way of living is the only life that we can think of. That as jokingly we were saying in the last class also, that ignorance, ajnana, results in what? This eternal conspiracy. That no one as such has a sense of fulfillment in the family life, but as that's the only choice for them, when they are upbringing their children, that's the only thing they show to them, that this is the way of life. If the children develop some spiritual inclination, they never understand at the beginning. And gradually, if the child is serious about it, and he starts really resorting to that spiritual way of life, and then the parents and other family members starts relating to it, and starts comparing that life of that person with the others, and starts feeling that yes, there is a sense of fulfillment, complacency, calmness, a refinement of character, all those things they see, and the new portal opens up, and they also to certain extent start giving value to this way of life, and that's what is meant by the purification. So that all the past generations gets purified in that sense. All the future generations also get purified in that sense. That those who in the nowadays, we even don't remember the name of our great grandfather. But in the olden days, with the agricultural family, this because of the cultivation of land, all the family used to stay integrated. And when the family bondage was very strong, so this knowing the name of previous generations up to 7 was not something unnatural. It was quite obvious. It was quite natural. So that way sometimes we may feel that why they're speaking of 7 generations. It used to be the tradition. They knew 7 because it was an integrated family. So that's why they are saying that the person who is spiritually illumined, even his 7 generations can relate to him, and even the forthcoming, they also will be relating to him. So in that way 7 generations has been mentioned. So they all become purified by becoming aware of this way of life. A portal opens up to them. They also get inspired to live that type of life. So Kulam Pavitram, that's a very nice sloka which indicates this idea. Kulam Pavitram Janani Kritartha Vishwambhara Punyavati Chatena Apara Satchit Sukhasagare Asmin Leenam Pare Brahmani Yasya Chetaha. That one whose chitta has got dissolved as if leena, has become one in the ocean, in the infinite ocean. Asmin Sukh, in the ocean of what? Apara, so in the infinite ocean. Apara means whose the ocean which has no shore. Is infinite. Apara. Ocean of what? Satchit Sukha. Sat-chit Sukha means Sat-chit Ananda. The ocean of Satchidananda. One has become one with that. For such a person, in his family, his Kula becomes Pavitra. Kulam Pavitram Janani Kritartha. The one who has given birth, the mother, she feels fulfilled. Kritartha. Vishwambhara Punyavati Chatena. And he purifies the world as if his presence becomes the purifying factor, whoever he comes in association with such a person. Because as we were saying, a portal opens up, that this is also a way of living, which can give us ultimate fulfillment. And that's being spoken of as Pavitante Kulang Tvaya. Yat avidya vandha muktya brahmi bhavitum ichchasi. So if as you have developed this desire to get rid of the bondage of ignorance, avidya bandha, and to be one with that ultimate reality, Brahman, we are already one with it. Somehow we are, because of ignorance, we are forgetful about it. So once the ignorance is removed, is obliterated, that we become one with that absolute reality, and then all the bondage falls off. And the one who has this desire to attain that state, know it for certain, he is dhanya, he is kritakritya, and he purifies his kula, his family. So after saying that, so now at the very beginning, because now he has asked some question and Guru will be answering, to indicate, to just stress the point that it is not just hearing. After hearing, it is a practice, how you internalize in your life the truths which will be spoken of, the principles which will be spoken of. On that depends your spiritual illumination. It's not just hearing and having an intellectual conviction. So first, to warn the student that it is not mere intellectual conviction. It is actually the overhauling of your entire personality by leading the life according to the principle that will entail in liberation. So first what we will say, the importance of self-effort in spiritual life in a few slokas. So what the 51st sloka is saying, Rina Mochana Kartara pituhu santi sutadayah bandhana mochana kartatu swasmat anya nakaschana. That the father has got his sons and maybe grandchildren who can help him to get rid of the debts. If the father is having some debt, the children can of course help him to get rid of the debt. But bandhana mochana. But he has got none but himself to remove the bondage. The bondage because of ignorance. That no one can do it from him. So thus to exert the need for self-effort, so a few slokas with some examples will be stated by Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya. In the 52nd sloka, what is saying? Mastaka anyasta bharade dukkham anyai nivaryate khudadi krita dukkhastu vina svena nakenachit. So you are suppose carrying a load in your head and it's too heavy for you. Someone can help you by removing that weight and share that weight so that you are a bit relieved. So mastaka anyasta bharade. So the weight which you are carrying, the bhara which you are carrying, anya, someone else can share it with you, can remove that, and that way can relieve you from the pain. Dukkham annai nivaryate. But if you are hungry, khudadi krita dukkhastu vina svena nakenachit. So when you are hungry, someone else by taking the food can in no way satiate your hunger. So certain things are there for which you have to do yourself. So just like the spiritual endeavor, no one else can do it for you. So 53rd, another example he is giving. Pathyam aushadha sevacha kriyate yena rogina arogya siddhi drishtva asya na anya anushtita karmana. So when we are diseased, we are sick, a patient, he has to take two things. Pathyam and aushadha. Proper diet and medicine. And the one who takes the proper diet and medicine, he alone can think of recovery, complete recovery. And not through the work of others. It's the same thing, that if someone else, I am sick and someone says, okay, I will take the pathya, I will take the aushadha, that's not going to help me. So there are certain things which has to be done by me. There are certain things someone can help me, but some things are very, very subjective, and to indicate that the spiritual journey is something which is subjective, which we have to take ourselves as our own responsibility, and then only it can entail in liberation, as has been indicated in Bhagavad Gita, that uddharet atmanat atmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hi atmana bandhu atmaiva ripuratmana. So that we have to elevate ourselves through the power of our mind. Uddharet atmanat atmanam. With the power with our mind, we have to elevate ourselves and not degrade ourselves. Na atmanam avasadayet. So here the responsibility is on us. We will find that in all the problem of this psychic issues, depression, dejection, people never want to take the responsibility on themselves. You will find the first symptom is they're constantly blaming others. That my parents, my surroundings, my family surroundings, my school, I was abused. I was brought up in such a situation which entailed in a lot of this abuse or indifference, and that's what I am, what I am. So here we find in Bhagavad Gita, this is, know it for certain, that in the same circumstances, there are people who shine forth from all their circumstances instead of hindering their path, has actually helped them to take a jump as if they were like the springboard. And it depends totally on our attitude towards life. And that's what the thing which in the Bhagavad Gita has been mentioned. And that's what the disciple is being instructed by the teacher. That it is after all your own responsibility. The word responsibility itself speaks that we as a human being alone have responsibility. No other creature has responsibility. The karma is accrued only by the human in this human birth. In all other birth, we just exhaust the karma which we have accrued in the human birth. They don't accrue any this karma in any other birth, whether it's in the heaven, the devas, or it's in the hell, or it's in the animal kingdom. We don't accrue the results of action. We just exhaust. All the results of actions are accrued in this human birth. Why? For others, in animals, it's mainly the instinct that works. They don't have any response ability. The word responsibility itself is a wonderful word. The one who has the ability to respond is responsibility. All others are working just as per the instinct. They're guided by the instinct. When the lion is pouncing on its prey, it is just his instinct. As a human being, we have the responsibility. Whether I resort to hingsa or ahimsa, I have the ability to respond. In each and every step of life, whether I just resort to sensuous pleasures of life or I will resort to the spiritual way of life. Again, that responsibility as a human being, I have. And based on that ability, only we can think of our ultimate fulfillment. And that's being indicated in these verses, that it is you who have to take the decision and the choice and accordingly lead the life. So Atmaiva hi Atmana Bandhu. So the self alone is the friend of the self. Atmaiva Ripur Atmana. And again, it is we alone who can be our own enemy. It is we alone who can be our friend. No one else can be my friend. Ultimately, I have to be friend to myself. The entire world may try to help me out. But unless I decide to help myself, no one can help me. As in the English, the proverb is, you can take the horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink. So in spite of all the help, unless you decide to help yourself, be friendly towards yourself, no one can help you. So that's the idea of Atmana, hi Atmana Bandhu, Atmaiva Ripur Atmana. So here comes the importance of our self-effort. So in this jnana, the path of this knowledge, the Purushakara do play a great role. Does Kripa has no factor here? Kripa also has a great role to play. With all our effort, we are not going to achieve the ultimate goal unless all the circumstances also become favorable. Just think that you have developed a tremendous sense of dispassion, but your family surrounding is not allowing you to lead that type of life. So what? You are not having the proper circumstances. So through Purushakara you cannot do much. To be born, to be in a all favorable circumstances, that speaks of Kripa. That's not in our hand. That sometimes we find that the external factors becomes a great deterrent factor for our aspiration. So there has to be a balance between these two. These two should meet. But if I don't have Purushakara, even if the external circumstances are favorable, it's not going to help me spiritually. So that's why Purushakara do have a great role to play in our spiritual journey. It's not alone. Kripa also is a big factor. As Sri Ramakrishna used to give a wonderful example. There are two farmers. And There is a weather forecast that this year the rain will be scanty. There's not going to be sufficient rain. So one farmer decides not to plow the land. The other farmer, for generations they are farmer, and his forefathers have told him. This speaks of parampara, see. Though he is a farmer, actually it is indicating a spiritual aspirant. His forefathers have told him that don't listen to the forecast. If the forecast says there is going to be drought, don't listen to it. Haja shukho manbina. In proper time, plow the land. So one farmer, as per the instructions of his forefathers, plows the land. The other doesn't plow the land. He thinks that what's the use? Because as per the forecast, there's not going to be any rain. There's going to be drought. And then the forecast proves to be false. It happens. And there is torrential rain. Now who is going to get the benefit? The one who has plowed the land, isn't it? So here, that's the example Sri Ramakrishna is giving. That whether rain will be there or not is not in my hand. Sometimes it is unpredictable. But to plow the land is in my hand. If I have not plowed the land, even if rain is there, it's not going to help me. That rain will be of waste for me as I have not plowed the land. So do your best and the divine will take care of the rest. And then resign to the divine so that he or she takes care of the rest. So here, that's the thing which is being exerted by the teacher. That there's an importance of self-effort in the spiritual life. So, and then he comes to the real point. After giving this various example, so vastu swarupam sphuta bodha chakshusha. So for vastu swarupa, to know the real nature, swarupa vastu of the ultimate reality, sphuta bodha chakshusha, these external eyes won't help. There is the eye of wisdom, bodha chakshu. That has to sphuta, that has to open up. Svenaiva vedyam natu panditan. And what's the way? That's only way is svenaiva. Swaiva means only by vedyam. It is only by realization. Not by just hearing from a erudite scholar. Natu panditena. Chandra swarupam nija chakshushaiva gyatavyam anyai avagamyate kim. So you have never seen the moon, the full moon night, the entire sky in the night is lit by that calm moonlight. That light can be cold. That is, light can have a very soothing effect. We can never know unless we are out in the full moon night. The impression is light scorches. Only in a full moon night you can find there is light. It has illuminated the entire world. It is cold. It is soothing. And to look at the moon itself is also something wonderful. It's something ethereal. Now, a wonderful poet writes a poem on this beauty of this full moon night of the full moon. And by reading the poem, can we ever understand that what the full moon night is unless we ourselves have seen the moon? So that's what Shankaracharya is giving an example. That unless you have realized Chandra Swarupam Nija Chakshushaiva, with your own eyes, unless you have seen the full moon on the full moon night, Gyatavyam Anyai Avagamyate. However beautiful poetry it might be on the full moon night, by reading it, I can never ever realize what that full moon is. So similarly, in our spiritual life, however we may go on hearing the intellectual jargons of an erudite scholar, we may feel that I have understood anything, but know it for certain, it's just a noise. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a nice example that hearing the scriptures and thinking that you have understood the spiritual truth, you know what it is like. It is just like hearing the humming noise of a marketplace from a distance. When from a distance you just hear the humming noise. When you go to the market, when you're near the market, then you find that it's not just that humming noise. It's actually some distinct words you can hear. That the seller is actually shouting the price. The others are bargaining. Everything now you can hear distinctly. So you have to be in the market. So just hearing the scripture is just like from a distance, hearing the humming noise of the market. It can in no way give you the idea, the real knowledge of the self. So this to the nature. So this is one of the great emphasis in our Sanatana Dharma. So you will find that in many religions, they stress too much on belief that the prophet is born. We can never become prophet. We can never have the same realization as he or she. But what he or she has said, we have to believe. We have to believe in that person. We have to believe in his words. And there our religious ends. So here, this is the unique distinction of the Sanatana Dharma from the other religion. What that? Here we find religion is realization. Unless you have realization, religion hasn't dawned in your life. It is mere some rituals which has, as such, have no effect in your life. It keeps you engaged. It restricts you from doing something unsocial. That the word dharma has two meanings. Dharyate iti dharma, vishishyate iti dharma. Dharyate. That the so-called religion, the religion of belief, the religion of faith, which says us to do certain thing and have faith in the words of the scripture, and there it ends. It do help us. How? By keeping our mind engaged in all those do's and don'ts and practices, it doesn't fall into some still baser things of life. Because mind always needs something to hold on to. It cannot remain free. So if you don't give something positive to hold on to, the natural tendency of the mind is to flow down. It will go to the instinctual level, and that will, at last you will find, is forcing you to disintegrate. So dharyata means to integrate. So that way it do help us. It integrates our life to a certain extent. But there is another meaning of the word dharma. Vishishyate iti dharma. Vishishyate. The characteristic which distinguishes me from others is my dharma. Like water. Water flows. The flow of water is its visheshana. That's its attribute by which I can understand that it is water. That's the characteristic of water. That the solid table, what is the distinction of the solid table from the water? This table won't flow, the water flows. So the flow is the dharma of water. To give heat is the dharma of fire. So these are the visheshanas that distinguishes it from other things. Similarly, as a human being, as we were saying again and again, we are the only creature who can think of the self. In the words of Ramakrishna, Manushi ekmatra jeev je Ishwar chinta korte pare. That the human being is the only creature who can think of God, who can think of self. So that uniqueness, that's another meaning of dharma. And otherwise dharma just remains to integrate our life, religare, to integrate. But when we really start searching for the meaning of our life, to find that who I am, the search, then it becomes the real characteristic of a human being, the vishishyate. And that alone can enter in our liberation. So, as has been spoken of in the Kathopanishad, that Nayam Atma pravachanena labhya, na medhaya, na bahuna srutena, yame vaishabrinute, tena labhya, stasyaisha atma vibrinute Tanung Swam. That this Atman is not, comprehended, is not attained by pravachana, just by listening, by hearing, by studying. Na medhaya, not by my intellect. Na bahuna srutena, not by as such hearing, not by my intelligence, not by study, not by hearing. But the Atman can be attained. By whom? Only by him who seeks to know it. To him the Atman reveals its nature. If you are a seeker, the Atman will as if open up its secret for you. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that what you choose, if you choose to know the Atman will reveal. Otherwise, this world, you will be just buffeted by the distractions of the world. Ramakrishna in his own way used to say very nicely, Je chai, she pai. The one who wants, really wants, he gets. Je, he has to play pun with the words. In Bengali, those who know Bengali, for them, it's really very beautiful, very poetic. So, Je chai, she pai. Je na chai, take baro bhute na chai. The one who wants, he gets. Je na chai. So there's a word in na and chai. There's a space between that. The one who doesn't want, na chai. The one who doesn't, nahi chahta hai. Na chai, nahi chahta hai. There's space. Take baro bhute na chai. Now there is no space between na and chai. In na chai becomes one word. Nachana. In Hindi they say nachana. तो जो नहीं चाहता है उसको बारह भूत नचाता है. बारह भूत means all these distractions in the form of the sensate pleasures of life. The five organs of action, the five organs of this karma action, the five organs of perception. This 10 mana buddhi. So with the mind, some resolutions will come. With the buddhi, with the mind, a lot of choices will come. Buddhi will ascertain from all the choices. He will just choose one of them. And this all again depends on all these five organs of action and five organs of perceptions. Through that only the mind is working. So these are the 12 ghosts which will be just making you dance. So if you don't want. So that's the idea. So has been spoken of here. The Vastu Swarupam Sfuta. So it is only through your spiritual practice leading to that realization that alone can enable you to know the truth. It can never be known just by hearing about the spiritual truth from an erudite scholar. So that's the thing which is being indicated in the 54th. So Swami, sometimes that Swami Vivekananda's that example, that sometimes by listening to the scriptures, we feel that we have understood. And we feel that we are spiritually illumined. But Swami Vivekananda used to say, we used to give that allegory, we have related so many times in other contexts, the story of the stag. A male deer one day was looking at his own reflection in a pond and seeing its muscular limbs. It was bragging out of pride to the young one, the fawn, the small deer, just standing by the side of that male deer, big male deer, the stag. It was bragging to that fawn. Just see how strong I am, how muscular I am. And then suddenly the stag heard the barking of some dog somewhere, and it started running frantically. And this fawn also followed the stag. After a long distance, the stag stopped. It was gasping for breath, totally exhausted. And now the fawn asked, "What made you so much scared? Just now you were so confident. You were speaking of your strength." And then the stag told, "I don't know what happens to my confidence the moment I hear the barking of dog. So we can relate to this in our life. Sometimes when we are reading the scriptures, that you are the Atman, you're not the body, not the mind, not the senses, nothing affects the self, we feel so uplifted. With that type of feeling, we go out, interact with the world, and find where the thought has gone. Our intellect has again got clouded, and it never in any way helped us to deal with the challenges of life. Why it happens? Because it is a mere intellectual conviction. It has not become a reality for me. So, as a human being, as we were saying, we do have the capacity to attain that realization. As Swamiji again in another place is saying, that the purpose of human birth is to attain that realization. The entire science, the entire technology, what it is doing, it is trying to heighten the intensity of the sense pleasures. We cannot deny that. It is just doing that. It is trying to heighten the intensity of ourselves with all our science, technology, social media, whatever you just see. It is trying to heighten the intensity of our sense pleasure. All our science technology is rushing towards that. But with all this effort, can we, Swami Vivekananda is saying a very interesting thing, can we ever enjoy a meal just like a dog? You just see when the dog is enjoying its meal. Its senses are so keen, the way it smells, the way its taste buds are. With all the technology, we can never enjoy the sensed pleasures of life the way the animals with more keen sense organs can do. Our science or technology cannot help us. Because we are not actually, as a human being, we have not been designed as such. We are not devised in such a way just to have the sensed pleasures of life. The animals have more intense, stronger sense than us. We can never, with all our technology, can never have the intense sense enjoyments just like the animals. And what's our uniqueness? This questioning, that the intense, your aspiration to get established in the self. That's the human uniqueness. And that's why Swamiji is saying that, as we were indicating, that Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that that's the uniqueness. That we, as a human, that Manushi ekmatra jeev, je Bhagavan chinta korte pare. That we alone can think of the self. That's why Ramakrishna used to break the word Manush. In Bengali, man is called Manush. He used to break the word in his own way. Manush is man plus hush. Man plus hush. Man means values. Hosh means awareness. That as a human being, we have certain values which no one have. Do you have the awareness? Usme ke hosh hai hamara? The man which I have. If I have the awareness of all those unique values which represents a human being, which defines a human being, then only I am a human being. Otherwise I look just like a human being. So just see how wonderfully, with this breaking of the simple word, he is indicating the same fact. And that Shankaracharya also will be indicating that the only purpose of this human birth is to enjoy the bliss of liberation while living. Jivan Mukti Sukha Prapti Hetave Janmadharana. So in this section, the last verse is Avidya 55th. That Avidya Kama Karmadi Pasha Bandham Vimochitum Kah Shaknuyat Veena Atmanam Kalpakoti Shatairapi. That the self-effort is pertinent, is the most important thing in the spiritual journey, without which, even in Kalpakoti Shatairapi, in hundreds of kalpas, what to speak of only this human life, cycles of this, there's crores of, 100 crores of cycles of our existence. We believe in kalpa, that this creation comes into existence, it stays for some time, and again it gets disintegrated, again the new creation starts. So like that, there can be 100 and thousands of cycles of existence, and we will be born not only as a human being or as any other being for one life, for so many millions of life through various cycles. Still you won't be liberated if you through your self-effort don't get established in the self. So one who but one's own self, we with our own effort can get rid of the bondage caused by the fetters of ignorance, desire and action. So these are the three things which results in our bondage. From ignorance comes desire, from desire comes action. Just that example we gave, that the moment the self, the Atman, the Brahman, seeing its reflection even in a microbe body, small microbe body, seeing its reflection there, it identifies itself with the reflection and thinks, I am the microbe. And now as it is identified with that microbe body, anything, if you put a nutrient near it, it is drawn towards it. Many say that the lower forms of life, they are not aware. That especially nowadays, this question of vegetarianism and non-vegetarianism has become so strong. They say that the lower forms of animal, they have no awareness. But actually what happens, I will just give an example, that when someone is hanged because of some capital punishment, some criminal, so the one who is hanged, you will always find that person is first masked. They will put something like bag on his face, and then only he will be hanged. Why that mask is put on his face? The only reason is that when you see the suffering, that facial expression will change. The person who is hanged, that facial expression is going to affect you, the one who is hanging him. So even you will find that sometimes when the terrorists will be killing others, they will first mask that person and then they will kill. Because all the reactions in that face that do affect us. We feel terribly, remorse, sad. It really affects our psyche. So I don't want to be affected by that. So we mask him. When we say that the lower forms of animal don't feel anything, it's really totally, have no base at all. If you look through the microscope, you'll find a small microbe, you put a nutrient, it is drawn towards it. It is responding to stimuli response. If you put some poison, it is moving away from it. It is having same awareness as us. Only it's in a total different level of existence. We cannot relate to it. Nature has masked it. But to say it doesn't have the awareness like the higher animal, it's just a worthless word. They do have same intents. Even in the plants we will find the redwood trees, they are all in the forest. Their roots never go very deep. They are shallow, but they stay for hundreds of years. Then how? Because all the roots are intertwined. The moment a small sapling starts growing, its tender roots, immediately the big trees, their roots will come and intertwine with the roots of this sapling, so that it forms a wonderful base, strong base. Now even if this storm is there, it is like a beam structure in the underground. So that gives a strong foundation like something. The trees are not affected by even this intense weather conditions. Just see the movements. It speaks of intelligence. Jagadish Chandra Bose did prove that even the plants steal nutrients from others through the roots. Only thing what has happened, we are being masked. The nature has masked. Why it has masked? Because otherwise we do. Seeing the reaction, we feel bad. But it is there. That that reaction is the same, suffering is there. There is no question of suffering being less or more. They say that all our emotions, are like what? In a room, if it is a vacuum, and you insert just a small amount of gas, will that remain in a corner? No. It will just spread in the entire room, isn't it? If you just insert a small amount of gas, it will spread in the entire room. If you insert with a lot of pressure, huge amount of gas, it also will spread in all the room. Our sufferings are like that. Whether it is small, whether it is great, it just simply pervades our entire existence. You ask any person in life that I may judge that my suffering is more, others person's suffering is less. But you ask him, he will say, no, in no way my suffering is less. I also have suffered as much as you. Because suffering is such a thing, it just pervades our entire psyche. So, as such, there cannot be that in the sense that the ahimsa which we speak, that by eating plants or other things, we are taking the lower forms of animals and that we're not hurting them much the way we hurt her. It's not what is a proper way to analyze. Because we will find in the Upanishads, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it starts at the very beginning, one wonderful line is there. Ashanaya hi mrityu. The moment you are hungry, ashana is hunger. Hunger means death. The plan of the universe is such. The moment you are hungry means someone has to die. Then what's the way really to go out of it? In Yoga Sutra, when they are defining ahimsa, very nicely they have defined that in the commentary, Vyasa Sutra. They say, lead the life, this human birth in such a way. The moment you are born, for your sustenance, each and every moment you are killing other animals. You can never practice, in true sense, ahimsa. The moment we are embodied, life has to depend on another life. Then what's the way we can practice ahimsa? It's more mental than the physical. Lead the life in such a way. Lead the life in such a way that you need not be born again. That's the only way of ahimsa. There is no other way. Lead the life in such a way that you need not be born again. And that's the thing, is the removal of the avidya. Not to give too much importance to all this. As Swami Vivekananda's letter we will find that the entire Indian nation for thousands of years have wasted time by how? By deciding how to put the mark on the head, whether it has to be horizontal or it has to be vertical. Whether to, while doing the rituals, whether to ring the bell with your right hand or left hand. And while cooking, what all rituals has to be followed. And in one place he's saying that the entire religion has entered this, our temple has become, the kitchen has become our temple, and the cooking pot has become our deity. We have forgotten the real purpose of religion, have given too much importance to the secondary details. The purpose is not that based on our food habits and other. Those things are dependent on in which type of environment, which type of society we are born. If you go to some of the hilly regions, the Cherrapunji and other places, the vegetation is very less. You may say they have so much of rainfall. But there is no vegetation because it's a hilly area. Because of tremendous rainfall, there's tremendous erosion. So you don't get much vegetation there. And there you find they take all sorts of things as food. There's no other way. Even insects. I was there in Northeast. They say insects, they will just pick up the insect, put it in their pocket. Small children. Because in the village, anything that crawls is food. That's how the food habit has developed, where the vegetation is not there. Birds you won't find in Cherrapunji. They will simply shoot them and eat them. So why? That their habitat is such, it doesn't allow. So just, you will find in some places the fish, eating fish is the habit. Why? They're near the water resource, lot of water resource, where fish is abandoned. That has become their habit. So it's not something, because as we were saying, that you can nearly, the nature is masking, nothing else. Suffering is there. So if I resort to overeating, that I just go on eating without any purpose. As in India, you will find the food habit is quite good. You have rice, vegetables, with that little non-veg food is there. Only after coming to this Western country, we find that it is only the non-veg, nothing else. So that is not a very hygienic food habit. If you have a balanced diet with which you are sustaining yourself, then this, to certain extent, this killing has to be there, then it's not something non-violent. Because as we were saying, that you cannot be that purely non-violent the moment you are embodied. So the main purpose of this is that real practice of non-violence is what? Live the life in such a way that you need not have to be born again. And that's the thing which has been spoken of in the 55th. Avidya kama karma. That's the cause of our bondage. From ignorance arises desire. Therefore the microbe going towards the nutrient speaks of obsession. As I think I am the body, I am obsessed for something which is favorable for me. If there is a poison, it runs away for it. It speaks of fight and flight response. Dvesha and abhinivesha. I run away from it. So why it has happened? Because of avidya. Because of ignorance, I think I am embodied. Actually, I am always free. Because of ignorance, as the moment I think I am this embodied being, now to nurture it, I am attached to certain thing. I hate certain thing. I am afraid of certain thing. All these responses come from where? This from the karma. This obsession, fight and flight speaks of the karma. And that results in karma. If it is nutrient, I am running towards, that's the type of karma. Either karma speaks of either it is forcing me to be in the growth mode or in the protection. I run away from fight and flight. That is protection mode. So all these has come from ajnana. The moment you realize the entire process of evolution, that these cycles of birth and death speaks of ignorance. The entire biological evolution is because of the ignorance. The microbe thinks that it will be perished because of little change of the stimuli. So what it does, it fights against the nature. How? It starts conglomerating. It will form a group of cells, comes together. There is a division of labor. You take care of respiration. I take care of digestion. You take care of circulation. So that way, this human body you find, such a sophisticated conglomeration of millions and trillions of cells. Why this has happened? Because of the basic ignorance. That I am this body. I find that the external environment is there not to enjoy the eternity, the sense of eternity which I have. To enjoy that in this body, I have evolved. As a human being, we are the only creature when we realize that I am already the self. It is because of ignorance, as I got identified with the body, this entire process of biological evolution has happened. I just have to stand apart. And that is the renunciation. That is the vairagya. And then, that through the spiritual procedure, when this detachment is ultimate, and this so-called, the flow falls off from me, and that enters in my ultimate liberation. So the knowledge alone can ultimately, the real knowledge, it's not intellectual knowledge, the knowledge which comes through that realization, that alone can break that bond, as has been indicated in the Mundaka Upanishad. Vidyate hridaya granthi, chiddante sarva sanshaya, kshiyante chasya karmani, tasmin drishte paravare. Para avara. The one who is the supreme, who is pervading this entire creation. He alone exists. Para and avara. When I realize that self, with the only, the substratum behind his entire existence, when I realize that, then all the knots of the heart, vidyate hridaya granthi, they fall asunder, cut asunder. The chiddante sarva samshaya, all the doubts vanish. Kshiyante chasya karmani, all the results of action, they gets obliterated. Kshiyante, no more there. When once you have realized that truth. So this to exert, to emphasize the need for this self-effort, which alone can take us to that realization, Guru first speaks of these verses before entering into the discussion. So we will continue with the next section of the Vivekachudamani again in the next class. So with this, we conclude our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.